I believe followers are the most important metric to optimize for on Spotify. Everything else is downstream of getting people to follow you and pay attention to you for the long term on that platform. If you want success on Spotify, I believe as long as you can get people to your profile, get them listening, and get them to follow, given enough time, you will win. Because when you look at some of the biggest artists and bands on Spotify, especially those with rabid fan bases who have longevity in their careers, their average monthly listener to follower ratio is extremely high. Now, I know we've all seen profiles of artists on Spotify who have, let's say, 300,000 average monthly listeners and 3,000 followers. And it's easy to look at that and think, well, followers don't really matter. This artist is making money off of streams, and streams are how you get paid. Technically, that's correct, but also, how much longevity does this artist have for their career? And on top of that, every time this artist releases a new song, they have to work and fight tooth and nail to get people to listen to it. Whereas if they had a comparable, let's say, average monthly listener to follower ratio, like some of the artists we're about to take a look at, they wouldn't have to work nearly as hard to make every release succeed. So let's take a look at some of the top artists in the world, starting with my favorite band, Linkin Park. You know I'm going to drop that on you. Linkin Park is number 87 in the world on Spotify, and they have an average monthly listener to follower ratio of roughly 3 to 2. For every 3 listeners they have, 2 of them are following them on the platform. That means 2/3 of the people who are listening to their music will get notified every time they release a new song without them having to do any work on Spotify directly. Another one of my favorite bands is a band called Seven Dust. They're a metal band. They absolutely destroy live. If you've never checked them out, definitely go give them a listen. They have a rabid fan base and have been doing this for decades. They have an average monthly listener to follower ratio of 1 to 1. That means everybody who's listening pretty much is also following them. That means every time they release new music, they never have to do extra work on top of Spotify simply delivering their material to their fans. All right, let's hop outside of the bands that I like. Number 3 in the world, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift has an average monthly listener to follower ratio of roughly 8 to 7. That means 7 out of every 8 people who are listening to her music are also following and will get every new song that she releases on Spotify without her having to do anything. Jumping up one place, Ed Sheeran is the number 2 artist in the world, and his ratio is actually inverted. Ed Sheeran has an average monthly listener to follower ratio of 4 to 5. So for every 4 people listening, 5 people are following, which means he's got people built in that aren't even listening currently. So every time he releases music, no doubt that section of his audience is going to come back to listen again. Not to belabor the point, but let's hit a few more artists just to show you what I'm talking about in rapid fire. Avicii, 3 to 2. Seven Lions, an artist that I love, a great DJ. He's a little lower, 4 to 1. For King and Country, a really popular Christian pop duo right here in Nashville, they are 2 to 1. And then over to me, slightly smaller artist, Tom DuPree III. I have been focused on followers almost exclusively ever since I started running ads, and my ratio is 3 to 2. The numbers may be smaller, but the ratio matches up with all of these other big artists. Okay, Tom, so you've made your point. Followers matter. But what about streams? What about saves? What about playlist ads? I firmly believe that all of this stuff is downstream of just keeping it simple and focusing on sending traffic to our profile. I believe that if you can get people to your Spotify profile, they are greeted with this big green play button. They are also greeted with this big follow button. And then on every track in your top 5 songs, they have the option to save that song when they hear it. That means that when they land on your profile, they can click play. It will auto play through your material. They can click follow and follow you for the long term. And then they can click save when they like what they hear. I believe if we can do this enough over an extended period of time, or in a shorter period of time, if you have a bigger marketing budget or a better way of getting people to your profile, or you have a video that goes off like Reels or TikTok, if you can drive people to your profile, then everything else will take care of itself. You'll get algorithmic traffic. You'll get added to playlists. You'll get people to save your songs. You'll get a higher save rate. But most importantly, we will get people built in for the long term who are invested in our material and want to keep getting new music from us. And eventually, when that follower count gets high enough, that listener count will grow alongside of it. And every release that we put out on Spotify, we won't have to work so hard to make sure that it gets on release radar that second, third, and fourth week, or gets on discover weekly as a result of all of the traffic that it's gotten from all of the followers that we have built in over time. So if you're like me and you're using paid advertising with Facebook ads or whatever else to send traffic to Spotify, my recommendation is to focus on your profile. I mean, just look at my last 28 days of follower growth on the platform. For the first half of this period, I was sending traffic to my songs on my album that I released earlier this year to test this and see what kind of a difference it would make. And then in the second half, I started sending people back to my profile and the growth skyrocketed. I generally get around 200 or so followers per month from my ad spend. And when I stopped sending traffic to my profile, that number cut by 4. I was getting about a quarter of that. So sending traffic to the profile, in my opinion, is the way. Everything else will take care of itself. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you want to go a little bit deeper with how I market my music using Facebook ads specifically, then check out this video right here. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.